appreciate the introduction to this group. Basically because it sounds like after talking to the people at our table, you're doing good work. You have a school in Columbia that you're working on rebuilding in that. You have a scholarship program as a retired school principal. Both of those deal with our youth, and I commend you highly for that. And the good work I'm here to talk to you about today is the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities. If you take away nothing else from this, I want you to know that it's all about kids and their families at one of the most desperate and frightening times of their life, what we're trying to do with them. We absolutely depend on people like you to help provide services and do some of the things that we're able to do and pass on to them. And if you like what I have to say today and you want to help, just let me know and we'll provide you with some opportunities to help. Let me give you just a little bit of history. I have to be real careful how I say this. Oh, by the way, I forgot. My talk is going, what time's the game start tonight? 7:05. We'll get out of here right before the game. We're out. I have to be careful how I say this because it comes out wrong a lot of times. My wife and I have been volunteers at the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities at the house for 31 years. So we're the longest term volunteers since one of our cohorts retired a couple of weeks ago. So we're now the next one up to us is like 21 years. And when I say it wrong, I used to say we're the oldest volunteers, but she usually hits me when I say that, so I try not to do that. We got involved with the house and with the charity when our third son, Jarrett, was diagnosed at 3.5 months, maybe about this big, with a neuroblastoma, which was about a softball-sized tumor in this little kid that was also involving his right kidney. And so we took him down to Children's Hospital, and they did surgery, took out the tumor, his right kidney, his appendix. He had lymph node involvement, and they gave him a year's chemotherapy and a 50-50 shot that he might live. And during that time, that was back in the beginning of 1978, during that time we noticed that families were sleeping under their children's bed. They were coming a long distance and couldn't go back and forth, but they wanted to be close to their children in the hospital. And there was no place for them to be. The hospital really couldn't provide any rooms for them to be in, and it was a really difficult situation. Now we belonged to a group at Children's called CURE, which stood for Children's United Research Effort. That was a parent support group, which we really needed, having a sick child. And then there was a parent support group at Cardinal Glennon called the Candlelighters. Those two groups got together and said, you know, they had a Ronald McDonald House in Philadelphia that opened in 1974, and it was basically some of the same things we were seeing. Fred Hill, who played football for the Eagles, had a child that had leukemia, and he noticed that families didn't have any resources. They wanted to stay close to their kids. They were sleeping under their kids' beds in the hospital room and windowsills, out in waiting rooms. And so he went to the McDonald Corporation and the Philadelphia Eagles and managed to start up the very first Ronald McDonald House. Now, we just last September, in that short period of time, have opened up out in West St. Louis County, out at Mercy, the 300th Ronald McDonald House in the world. And there have been a few that have opened since then. So it's grown significantly. We started out on West Pine, bought a rehab house, worked on it. I wallpapered one of the rooms upstairs in a dormer room that every time I thought everything was done, the paper would come back down on my face. It's fun. It was a long day. And we started out with 8 bedrooms. We thought, hey, man, we're really making progress. We very quickly realized that that wasn't anywhere near enough. So after we were able to go out and start to establish ourselves with donors, the donor base, we were able to then build onto that original facility and add another 6 bedrooms and an enlarged kitchen. So that brought us up to 14. Still wasn't enough. So a few years later, we were able to pull together some more funding, and we bought the house next door, connected them with a walkway, and added another 6 bedrooms. Then we started noticing that we had families that had children that were immune suppressed. They were taking drugs to keep them from rejecting organ transplants, lungs, hearts, other organs that the body would reject if they didn't take the drugs. And those drugs make them very susceptible to things like colds that could be life-threatening for a child like that. So they needed places where they could stay out of the general population, where they weren't around a whole bunch of other people. So we worked with the city of St. Louis, it's hard, and bought an old dilapidated nursing home next door on the other side, and managed to build 8 2-bedroom apartments over there so the families could have the services that we provide and yet still be close and be able to come over and have dinner, etc. And that was pretty good. So we came up there. Then Cardinal Glennon came to us and said, you know, you guys are only 10, 15 minutes away from our hospital, but our parents don't want to be that far from their kids in the hospital. And we're going to buy, we need a parking lot, so we're going to buy this entire city block, which is just a little bit east of the hospital, and we're going to demolish it into a parking lot. But on the corner of it, there's a little apartment complex, and we'll sell it to you for $1 if you'll work with us, and we'll help you along with it. And if you'll work with us and build another Ronald McDonald House so our Cardinal Glennon families will have a place close to the hospital that they can be. So we worked with them and opened up that house on Park Avenue. And then the house out in West County. So we're now at about 59 families a night that we can serve. And it's still not enough. Last summer, before we opened up the 20 bedrooms in the new house, we had over 5,000 turn-away nights. Now that means there were families that could have used a place to stay, and we weren't able to provide it. So we look at that, the board looks at that, and then we seriously look at how can we help with that problem in society. So we work on that all the time. Now, we don't just provide a room, a place to stay. It's a lot more than that. There's groups, there's the families that stay there that tend to support each other. They talk, they all have something in common. They have a critically ill child in one of the hospitals. And they work really, really well together to help each other out. That's a big help for the families that stay there. There are groups, much like your group, that come in every single night. Bring in food, cook a dinner, serve it, pack up the leftovers, clean up, and leave. So the families come back from the hospital exhausted from a day at the hospital, and they have a hot meal waiting for them. Sometimes even breakfasts on the weekends, and sometimes during the week. And those are programs that we started 15, 20 years ago, and have just been wonderful. And families really appreciate it. Now, do we let them stay for free? Yeah. We charge them $5 a night, if they can afford it. And if the social workers at the hospital that have made the recommendations to us say, you know, this family had to travel a long way, the father had to quit work so he could be here, they've had a lot of medical bills, obviously, and they really can't even afford $5 a night, we'll waive it. You know. We have fundraisers that kind of help cover some of those expenses. For example, scouting classes, scouting groups, schools, church groups, all kinds of groups save the little aluminum tab tops. Okay, not a big deal, one little aluminum tab top. They add up. And in the region, which includes part of Illinois and part of Missouri, in the region last year we were able to recycle those, sell them to a scrap metal company, and managed to realize about $17,000. That'll help a lot of the $5 a night waiving that we do. So does it cover the whole thing? No. It probably costs us about $80, $82 a night per room to house a family. And that's all covered with some of the other fundraising that we do. So, but the houses that house 59 families aren't the only thing we do. As Mark said, we have 3 family rooms. And those family rooms, we have one in Mercy, which used to be St. John's Mercy. Now it's strictly Mercy. You've probably seen their ads on TV. We have one at Cardinal Glennon and one at Children's. My wife and I actually were at the one at Children's. We do the 3 to 6 shift on Wednesday nights. And I bake chocolate chip cookies. Drives the nurses nuts because they can smell that drifting out into the hall, and yet they know that those cookies and snacks and things that we have in there are for the families of children that are in the hospital. And they really can't have them. And they'll walk by and you'll just see them. You know, I love it. So we've got the family rooms where anybody can use the family rooms as long as they have a child in the hospital. And we'll have families, grandparents, aunts and uncles that will come in to support the families that will come in. And as Mark said, McDonald's provides free coffee. Actually, the sodas are free. If you want to make a donation, we've got a little donation box there. But and snacks, if we have them, and usually we do, the little bags of chips and the little things of crackers and things like that are all individually wrapped. Well, those are free. They can come in, they can grab a little something, they can sit down on one of our chairs. There's computers. They can stay in touch with family at home with the computers. There's a TV where they can just veg. Laundry facilities, showers that are wheelchair accessible and nicer than the ones they have in the patients' rooms. So we have some things. Oh, and a kitchen where I can cook cookies. That works too. And they can keep their food from the cafeteria if they need to. Just label it and put it in the refrigerator. So we offer those kinds of services also. Things that we can do to help families that are in a situation that none of us would want to be in, but a lot of us are forced to be in. I'd like to, and I'm keeping this short because you guys have 2 speakers. I'd like to, and anytime you have a question, you can just ask me. I'd like to read a letter that we got about 3 months ago from Grandpa Dave was his name. And he wrote it and sent it in. And I have a tough time reading it every time I read it. This is about the 10th time I've read it and I still choke up on it. So forgive me if I stop for a second. To all those who give their time freely, true kindness is a wonderful gift. I thought I had experienced pain in my life. Nothing has come close to the pain I've had to bear with my grandson's illness and watching my daughter's emotional roller coaster ride. My grandson Tyler is in an induced coma because of brain seizures. The doctors are not sure of the cause. I hope and pray I can see him again on the basketball court, baseball field, and running through the yard. I've seen several families waiting on their preemie babies to get healthy enough to go home. I've seen heart and lung transplant kids waiting on surgery or waiting to heal. I've listened to a family's experience who stayed in several Ronald McDonald houses in several states as their 8-year-old son had a brain tumor and endured surgery and therapy on his road to recovery. I wept with a family who will be scarred for life because they lost their baby. We who stay at the Ronald McDonald House can honestly feel the other person's pain or joy because we come so close and are in such similar situations. In the last few weeks, I've been lost in emotions. I've cried more than my whole life put together. I've tasted my tears. I've felt them dampen my shirt and drip on my pants. I cry a lot at the Ronald McDonald House, but many of my tears are from the acts of kindness from the staff and volunteers. I consider these tears good tears, soul-mending tears. I can hardly see now because the tears blur my vision. Me too. One is smeared across this card. My heart is broken, but every time I step foot in the Ronald McDonald House, I feel better. The Ronald McDonald House has touched my heart forever. So grateful to all the people who comfort us. People who do things out of love will surely be blessed. Regardless of my grandson's outcome, I will always be indebted to the Ronald McDonald House. It has been my sanctuary. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all who volunteer and the staff at the Ronald McDonald House. Sincerely, Grandpa Dave. Great rider. Okay, now he's thanking the volunteers. To give you an idea of the scope, for each one of the 3 family rooms, it takes 100 volunteers to keep the family rooms open 9 to 9. That's 300 volunteers just with the family rooms that are in the house. That doesn't count the board members, the committee members that do things for the golf tournaments, the people who volunteer at the houses and do things on a day-to-day basis. It's a massive, massive undertaking. And we think we've been very successful, but we know that sometime in the future we're going to continue to need to grow. One of the areas that we're in collaboration with right now with Clarkson Eye Care is a van. We're going to purchase the van. And a lot of those monies come from that change that you're throwing in the containers at McDonald's when you buy your hamburger and you don't want that change rattling around in your pocket. That van will be staffed with doctors and staff from Clarkson Eye Care, and it will go out and visit neighborhoods where children who would not have the opportunity to have eye care or get a pair of glasses. So we're expanding that, and hopefully we see that up and running early part of next year. So there are things that the board and the people at Ronald McDonald Children's Charities are constantly looking at to see what kinds of things we can do to help.